Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Instant Ramen Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and with me, filling in for Juan this week, is one of my first adult friends, my boy from back in the day, Abe. He's also married to Kate. That's a thing that some people are aware of, I guess. Abe, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't want anybody but you to join me for Star Wars Visions.
Yes.
We're talking about it this week. Pretty big deal. You're a Star Wars fan through and through. I don't know, fucking whatever.
I am, though. I really am, though. It's, I know you were making that up for flair, but I really am.
No, I know you're a huge fan of Star Wars. We've talked about it in the past because I haven't been, so I figured we would have somebody who's more passionate about Star Wars versus somebody who kind of just like appreciates what it's done for our film culture and nerd shit.
Yeah.
So,
oh man, from a nerd perspective, man, Star Wars really kicked it off.
I guess normally we have people go into why they like anime, how they got into that. We'll do that in a second. I think it's important to talk about your knowledge of Star Wars so that you could give a little bit of street cred to the people who need that in order to listen to this.
Sure.
So how is your relationship with Star Wars? What's your experience?
Relationship with Star Wars souring over time, but
okay. Hey, that's good for the core fans, right?
I think honestly when I really because I'd seen the movies, right? And I definitely remember where I was when I saw Empire Strikes Back for the first time, because it was at a friend of my mom's house. My mom had gone over there to like see this old high school buddy or whatever, and their older son was watching Empire Strikes Back, and I remember watching it and like it being probably the first movie that ever hit me in a way like, oh my god, the bad guy's winning. And it like affected me so deeply that I never forgot like that moment where I was. But really, when I first started getting into the series, the first time I started being like a Star Wars fan and collecting toys was like the prequel era. Before Phantom Menace came out.
So you were like 10-ish.
Yeah.
10 years old.
So
and
that's
then you were
kinda,
a full-fledged super fan.
Yeah. I ended up going to school for film and media studies. And so analyzing films and going over the stuff that I really cared about when I was younger became kind of part of the, my thing. And I really embraced nerd culture as I started getting older. So Star Wars is such an integral part of that type of mindset.
I'm with you, man. That's why I've seen it all.
Yeah. But I just, regardless of whether I liked it or not, I've seen it.
I'm there with you.
But Star Wars has been just such a great universe to be a part of, I think, for me from an imagination standpoint. And what was funny was like, who knows if we'll get into this later, but the sequel's not my favorite thing, but when
we are for sure going to bring up parts of the sequels later.
Okay.
Don't worry.
But when my wife and I, because we went to go see which one? The Rise of Sky. Which one was the first one of the sequels?
7, 8, 9.
7. So when we went to go see 7, we went. We got to the movie theater like 5 hours before we were going to watch it at midnight or whatever, and we watched it, and Kate cried on the way out to the parking lot, and I had to hustle her to my truck because I was like, we got to get out of here before someone thinks I hit you. You're crying out in public.
Not to mention you just hit her, so that was a bad look.
Yeah, that usually necessitates a quick exit, But the thing that I found interesting was like I was just so happy being back in that world.
Oh man, it honestly. Episode 7 was my favorite Star Wars. I'm not going to fucking put anything out there that says otherwise. I think it did everything that episode 4 did, but made it modern. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
we could have something incredible here.
Yeah, we could have.
And we sure didn't, because whatever reason, pettiness, some stupid corporate bullshit going on, or just some uninspired people making a quick buck.
Yeah, that's the thing. It helps when I think it helps when you have one person with a vision seeing it through from start to finish. And when you just start throwing random people in there, I'm like, you don't have a cohesive thought, and there's all these different styles, which, you know, under the right circumstances could have been interesting, but it wasn't in this one.
So now that you've established you don't like the sequel trilogy, which is not a very unpopular opinion, I think most people would agree with you.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty safe on that one, I think.
You don't like that. How do you feel about The Mandalorian and Star Wars Visions?
Okay, so since you mentioned it first, The Mandalorian, the first episode really hooked me, which is, I think, a great start to any sort of series if the first episode can pull you in. And the feel of things and the look of things, you know, it's been a minute since I've seen the first episode of Mandalorian, but I remember just the world building to be so, like, I was like, oh man, it feels like I'm home. And there's not really a better way I know how to describe that, even though, you know, I just went on about how I was a film major and I know how to describe stuff. No, it's the best way to describe it.
You're a fucking nerd, and they welcomed you back. They're like, we're taking care of you. Don't worry. Really? Episode 9 was an accident. I'm so sorry. I actually was so discouraged from Star Wars after episode 9. I was like, I'm not gonna fucking watch this. I don't care how many times people are like, oh, look at Boba Fett and like little baby Yoda. I don't give a shit. Well, as it turns out, it's a really good show that I'm probably gonna wind up forcing myself to watch and enjoy, because Star Wars Visions convinced me, all right, you're doing good stuff with Star Wars again. Well, maybe I should jump back in.
And that's the other thing is, the thing that I think got me about Mandalorian was that it felt like there was passion behind it again. Whereas I did not feel passion about the sequels. And that passion is the same thing I felt in what I would say most of Star Wars Visions. Not in every episode, but I could tell that in certain aspects there were people that like were combining two major passions of like the property and then, you know, what they like to do from an animation standpoint. And when those things, there was a couple episodes where those things really collided well, that I was like, oh man, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. Because one thing that Star Wars Visions, I think, had some it was very different ideas and concepts for each story that they told, and some of them were like, I like this part of the Star Wars universe and that's the only thing I want to explore, and other things were like, I love the Star Wars universe and I want to make a new part of it. So it was just like different kinds of passion for the Star Wars franchise, and that's one of the things that I liked about it. But you said that you're not as versed in the extended universe lore that all got retconned.
Yeah, I would. You know, that was never my forte. I've watched all the shows. I've seen all the movies, and I've dabbled in some of the comics. But and I, you know, I know things to an extent, because when I was in college and I didn't do anything else, I did this with other comic series, and I did this with the Star Wars universe. Was I would go on Wikipedia and I'd kind of just absorb the information that was being thrown at me. So I have a general understanding of characters that were never introduced in the mainline series. You know, I know that Luke eventually did go to the dark side, and that's where he met his like eventual wife, because she was also like a dark side practitioner.
Apparently not anymore.
Right. And so, you know, so I have a general understanding of the things that I haven't seen. So I don't know. I would say I'm I'm like middle of the road as far as.
What about Video Game Boy? I think a lot of people kind of sleep on how much lore is in the Star Wars video game universe.
Yo, so one of my favorite N64 games was Shadow of the Empire, and
bro, I was gonna say, man, Shadow of the Empire is one of the only good N64 ones.
I don't know.
There were only like 2, and that was the good one.
I don't know how I got a hold of that game. It just was a game that I had when I was a kid, and that follows Dash Rendar, who is
sure does
Han Solo 2, essentially. He's flying the Millennium Falcon for some reason. I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but I fucking love that game. It is so much fun, and I if the N64 wasn't so fucking painful to go back and play now, I would probably, now that we're talking about it, I still kind of want to break it out.
Oh no, it did not age well. Just trust me on this.
No, I believe you. I mean, have you ever tried to replay the original Turok on N64?
No, because Turok was already clunky.
It was terrible. You had to use the C buttons to move around.
Don't say that. But pod racing was also another Star Wars thing, which was cool because it was adding more onto the prequels in this very niche little area, and they were like, yeah man, that's Arc Bumpy Roos, go have fun with him. Just like busting out all these weird ass aliens and adding into the lore. So whether or not it's something that adds some significance to the main story of Star Wars with the whole Jedis versus Sith and the religious undertones of all that, or just expanding cool alien bullshit. Star Wars has a lot, and Visions, I feel like, adds on to the cool bullshit part of things more than anything else. Yeah. So, all right, enough for the Star Wars. You know what's going on. You're a Star Wars bitch.
Yeah, I think
it's all good.
Yep, I sure am.
But how did you become an anime bitch?
Oh, anime
I know.
Bitch. What?
Thinking back, because I've told it on the podcast before, but like, my first animes, I didn't know were anime. I watched Thumbelina, and I fucking loved that. Turns out, Thumbelina, there was also like a Disney version of Thumbelina or some shit, and I never watched that. I didn't know what that was.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, I know you did. I just watched the anime Thumbelina with the sugar plum princess that like is made out of sugar and literally melts when she's being forced to marry this frog person.
My God.
It was some anime bullshit. Yeah, didn't know that was anime. Didn't know Pokemon or Digimon were anime, but I knew that Trigun was anime. So that was my first genuine experience with anime, with that knowledge that, oh, this is a specific kind of animation. This is a specific kind of storytelling. Otherwise, I wasn't very versed, so I would be like, I don't know what Inuyasha is, but Trigun, I get that. Like, yeah.
Interesting, because I didn't even know about Trigun until I met you. You were the one that told me about Trigun. So,
ooh, man. Well, Cowboy Bebop and Trigun were like on around the same time, and I feel like most people knew about Cowboy Bebop, where less people knew about Trigun. But I saw the last episode of Trigun and was hooked. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Is there more? Oh, that was the last episode? Oh, okay. Time to watch it all.
Yeah. Okay, so where I started in anime, I mean, like most people my age, probably Dragon Ball Z on Toonami was a big factor. But I also remember going to Blockbuster and renting like OVAs.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure those were of like Rurouni Kenshin, like Samurai X stuff, which is funny because,
we were going to talk about Rurouni Kenshin this week.
Little inside anime.
And then I realized, holy shit, wait, why are we talking about that? We got to talk about Star Wars. Abe likes Star Wars.
Yeah. Why are we talking about this outdated piece of shit when...
Yeah, I'm like, who gives a fuck about that? We're going to talk about live action bullshit instead of anime. So like,
but I didn't understand. Oh, you know what? Actually, this just popped back into my memory. One of the things I saw, one of those DVDs I rented from Blockbuster was an episode of the Street Fighter anime.
Oh shit.
And there was literally no fighting in it. It was like all about like Ken's girlfriend taking him shopping. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
You're just sitting there like, I did not sign up for this bullshit. Anime fucking sucks, dude.
Yeah, I'm a little kid looking for, I was like, the name is Street Fighter. And I'm like, I'm watching this guy go shopping. What the fuck is this?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But Cowboy Bebop is my all-time favorite anime, like bar none. It always will be, and I'm, I don't know if you want to go into this at some point, but I'm not super excited about the show.
I was gonna ask you. I'm not either. And here's the thing: whenever people make these like cosplay cool, like 10-minute long anime videos on YouTube or something, they put a lot of effort into it. They try really hard. That's fucking awesome. That's just like a fan thing, and they work their ass off, and it's so cool. This feels like that though, and that's not what I watch TV for. I don't want to watch hours of people doing a cool fan thing. I just want to watch 10 minutes, and it just doesn't feel like the world is lived in.
You know what? That's a great point. I'm glad that you said that. I can pretty much guarantee that if we watch the live action series that's coming out, that the world,
I'm watching it.
The world is not going to. Oh, I mean, my son's going to be born right before that, so I'm absolutely watching it as well.
You gotta.
I can almost guarantee that the world is not going to feel as organic and lived in and real as it did in the anime. And that's only the tip of the iceberg for me. Like the other thing about creating a live action property or a live action anything about something that was originally animated is like, it's the same reason it's the same thing I feel about all the Disney shit that they're doing. You are cheapening the animation to me. The effort that went into making such incredible animation, like, yeah, of course you could do that live action, but why would you? Part of the thing that makes it special is that it's animated. And all of the incredible things that you can do with animation that, you could do it with CGI and all this the computer shit in live action, but it's not going to feel, it's just going to feel like you're ripping off the animation.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand the point other than like, they're trying to make money, obviously, but I don't think that's a real, I don't think that's an adequate reason to make something.
So I don't know if you remember, let's go back 4 years, Death Note live action.
No, I saw it.
Came out. Yeah. But they didn't try to do the same thing as the anime. They tried to make their own movie and their own story and changed so much. And it wound up being the fucking worst, man. Willem Dafoe was a pretty good Ryuk, and that's all that I could say about that. I feel like for Cowboy Bebop, the fact that they are, I don't know how much you've read about what they're doing with Cowboy Bebop, but essentially they are not recreating the episodes. They're going in between and trying to flesh out some more stuff going on. They are keeping all the same characters, same villains and stuff from the series, but they're putting a different emphasis on things. They're trying to flesh out stories in different ways and just kind of expand the world. To me, that feels like they really know that fans don't want them to just do a direct recreation of it, but they're not quite understanding what people do want. Because people are like, yeah, live action, let's do it. Let's make a really good live action thing. And I don't think we're going to get there unless we can find something that's really grounded. It's hard to do those kind of sci-fi type things. Even though I think Ghost in a Shell had some amazing visual effects, I don't think that was a spectacular recreation of the original film. I don't think people know what to do with it still, and there just needs to be more experimenting before fully committing to something like this.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot you could say about that, right? Like, I think that it shows that they're at least, I don't want to knock the creators of this live action version.
Dude, they're probably working their asses off.
I totally agree. And it sounds like they are also fans of the show, right? So,
well, I would hope.
Okay. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes.
It doesn't.
So I'll give them the fact that they're at least trying to listen to what the fan base wants, but with a fan base that huge, I mean, you're going to piss somebody off. And so at some point you have to go with your own vision.
They're trying to keep Ed a secret right now, and people are worried. So I don't know.
Okay. So that's exactly my point, right? Is like, Ed as a character is just, in my opinion, something impossible to create.
Live action?
Yeah.
No way, dude. Are you kidding me? Ed's just like, yeah, I've been wandering around in the desert and like doing mushrooms or whatever.
Ed is,
like,
Ed is,
oh, okay.
Ed is made of rubber. How do you make that into a live action and just so charming?
We'll see, man.
You know,
honestly, if they fucked everything else up, but they got Ed right, I would be so stoked.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be so happy. Ed's my favorite character in that whole show, through and through. Just I love anybody that has a lot of passion and innocence and humor in darker settings. I really appreciate those characters for giving a different kind of perspective on things.
Dude, though that's why in pretty much everything that's come out in the last 10 years, the robot character has been my favorite character in any game, movie, whatever. Because the robots take everything literally, and they're able to add some like levity in like these dark situations, because whatever, they don't give a fuck. They're a fucking robot. Like, so you know, Borderlands 3, I was the robot character. In
2,
what? No, 3, right?
Who is in 3?
The robot. Like he has the robot animals. With like the robot
right,
dog.
dude. Yeah, Pro ZD played him. That's right. 3 is just such a blur to me. You're
I
right.
know.
Yeah.
I told, because you said 2, and I was like, wait,
0?
was it 2?
Well, I thought you were talking about 0, because 0 was also fantastic.
Well, I played 0 too, but I mean, you get what I mean. Like those types of characters are always the best. So yeah, if they could pull off Ed, that would be dope. But
dude, Portal.
Why? I mean, Portal is another one of my all-time favorites. Portal 1 and 2, GLaDOS.
Wheatley.
Wheatley was great. Yeah. What a fun character. Just so bumbling up until the end where he's like, I'm evil now too. And you're like, but you're still an idiot.
Fantastic robots.
Yeah, super great.
I don't know if there have been better ones. There probably have.
Well, you know, next time you have me on the podcast, we can talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do our robot episode. I guess we could. I think we've done a mech episode at one point, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe that was just in our notes. It's been years. I don't remember everything we talked about.
Yeah. How many episodes are you guys up to now?
This is like 269, which is why I had you on it, so that you could get the emphasis on 69.
Ayo!
Yeah. I figured you might appreciate that.
69 is a sex joke for those that may not be aware.
And since we're talking about 69, I'm not even fucking kidding. One of my favorite things. Okay, so for everybody listening right now, go stop the podcast, go watch Midnight Mass, and come back to the podcast. Fantastic show. Amazing. Everybody should go watch it. It's on Netflix. Long story short, the whole thing is very serious. They don't really have any jokes in it. There might be some like comedic human moments of just like, oh yeah, a human would react that way to that kind of a thing. Ha ha ha. Whatever. But my favorite part, Raul Coley is this incredible actor. He plays the sheriff in it, and it cuts to a scene where he's hanging up the phone and somebody else is coming in, and he's saying some numbers. He's like, all right, yeah, sure. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Oh yeah, the number 42269. And I'm like, that guy just fit in a 42069 joke. Nobody saw it. He just like had that little
but he
pause.
Had a 2 in the middle there.
He had that little pause to throw a 2 in there so that it wasn't a blatant 42069. But Raul is the kind of guy that would do that. Fucking incredible. Loved it. If you don't know who he is, he makes a lot of crass humor, but he also defends people on the internet that are being attacked and stuff. He's cool. He's a cool dude.
I've felt this way since Dude, Where's My Car? And there is a place in our culture for crass humor. And honestly, people that like shun that sort of thing, I'm like, I don't trust you. Because you know what? Everybody finds funny, even when they don't want to admit it, is fucking farts. So
there you go, man. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those things that's so simple, so stupid, but you just sneak it into like a serious show. And I was like, whoa, how did he get away with that? Just nailed it. Possibly people on set had no idea what he was doing either, but I know that fucker loves those kinds of jokes. So anyways, yeah, thanks for being on episode 269, Abe.
I can't imagine a better episode. You should have me on every 169th episode.
Hey, man, 100 episodes from now, I'll try to remember. It probably won't pan out because I don't have a great memory. Let's just put it that way. But, okay. So, your favorite...
Meth.
It's the meth. It's the meth that messes up my brain. Yeah. So, your favorite anime is Cowboy Bebop.
Yep, bar none.
But you've watched plenty of anime.
I would say I'm more of a... I've definitely watched less anime like in the recent history of my life than I did when I was younger.
Sure.
You know, getting older and things get in the way and I just don't watch as much. But yeah, I was definitely like... I was more of a manga guy, I guess I would say.
Okay.
We talked about it when we were still discussing possibly doing Rurouni Kenshin. Is like I read all of Rurouni Kenshin. I read a lot of those. Who did those? Who was the company that put a lot of those manga out in the U.S.?
Dark Horse did a lot.
I bought
back in the day.
I bought hundreds of volumes of manga from like Borders.
Okay.
Or Barnes and Noble. So many.
Viz is also pretty popular.
I think Viz was most of the ones I bought. But yeah, so I've been a fan of the art style and the stories. And so sometimes I'll catch it on anime. But yeah, I would say I'm fairly well versed in the anime culture.
Yeah, and at the very least, you have a wife that listens to the podcast, so she's up to speed.
Yeah, and by the way, she watches so much more fucking anime than I do. Like,
oh yeah,
when we met, and I thought I was an anime fan. Holy shit! Maybe at the beginning of our relationship it was even, but now no. Like, she is so much further ahead of me.
It's a problem,
she watched all of Fairy Tail, so I mean that should pretty much give you.
And now you know too much about Fairy Tail, probably more than I would ever know.
Yeah,
just by proximity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what are some of your favorite more recent anime, I guess?
Oh, well, let's see. Favorite recent ones.
Sorry to interrupt, but
no worries.
Because Cowboy Bebop, of course, it's just like quintessential anime. When you think of anime, that is one that gets brought up all the time.
Yeah, that one's pretty
it's a good go-to. It's a good default for like, oh yeah, what anime should I watch? You ever watch that? No, never heard of it. What the fuck? Okay, go watch it. You have to, you know?
Shoot, man. I mean, a lot of what I watch is something that stuff that Kate and I can watch together. So Demon Slayer is definitely one of the more recent ones that we stay up on. Oh man, I'm gonna sound like such a pleb because like
whatever you want, man.
We watch My Hero and we watch all the ones.
My Hero is so fucking good. I don't even care. It's a fantastic show, man.
I like it. You know, there's but yeah, I can't really say like, oh yeah, I'm way deep into the anime world now because I just got so much other stuff going on. But yeah, My Hero, Demon Slayer.
I remember Kate was pretty into Food Wars. Did you watch that with her?
I did. Yeah, we did like Food Wars. I really liked the first season. When just shit was, the first couple episodes we watched, I was like, oh my god, this thing is so ridiculous, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, modern anime probably not like my main forte, to be honest.
I mean, honestly, there's no good anime out there because it's all just fucking garbage.
I would still much rather go back and watch the stuff that I used to. I mean, because I've got Cowboy Bebop and Trigun, the entire series on Blu-ray. I would much rather go back and watch those when I feel in the mood for anime than try to find something now
Luckily now you don't have to try to find it. You just go to your local weeb and you go, I want anime like this anime. And you go, okay, well, I got 2 questions for you. And then you get a cool new anime out of it.
Well, the problem there is that you are my local weeb and you and I differ so completely on anime. I don't think we've almost never agreed on an anime that one of us has liked.
Really?
I mean, really.
We just talked about Cowboy Bebop and Trigun.
Okay, well, those are givens.
Just talked about Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia.
Okay, but most of the time when we have conversations outside
We're
of the podcast,
talking about Star Wars Visions.
All right, listen, you. How many times have we had a conversation in the history of our friendship where I've been like, "Oh, I love this one," and you're like, "That anime is fucking garbage."
Yeah, I know. I fucking know, man. But here's the thing. I've consumed so much anime since we've had those conversations that now I'm able to fully address like, oh, okay, this is going to be for you. I don't like this, but I know it's for you. I'm good at analyzing that because I watch so much fucking shit, dude.
Yeah, true. I think the problem for me now is more like I don't know what I'm looking for anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's hard.
Yeah. And I don't really know what it is that I like, because when you're young and you first start getting into the world of anime, you're like, oh my God, this is so much different than like the cartoons I've been watching, the other shows. This feels adult. This feels like the next level. And then you get old and crusty and life sucks, and then you're like, I just don't feel that way anymore. So you end up holding on to the things that feel nostalgic to you. That's why I've like brought up Law of Ueki like 1,000 times to you, and you're like, dude, it's not that good.
It's not. If you watched it, you would go, I understand it's not good, but I like it. Which is the same thing that I feel about Digimon. I'm like, I could rewatch the first 50 episodes of Digimon any day of the week and have a great time. It's not good. It's just nostalgic for me.
The first season of Pokemon, all the way up until when Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, it's all the same episode. It's just the same thing every time.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I fucking love it. I mean,
familiar.
if I see those, I'm like, absolutely, I'm going to watch that shit.
I will tell you 2 shows right now that are exceeding my expectations. One of them is called Sunny Boy. I don't know what's going on in it. It is so philosophically interesting to me. It's blowing my mind every episode between animation, sound design, music. The most recent episode is one of the most beautiful sequences in anything I have ever seen, and it really held on to these moments for a long time. Haven't seen something that powerful in a while in any kind of media. Fantastic job. It's 1 episode from being over, so I feel like I can honestly recommend that to people. That one's on Funimation and Hulu. And then the other one is called Haikyuu Story.
You're not getting sponsored by Funimation, by the way, are you?
Funimation just has such good shit on it all the time, which sucks because Crunchyroll has way better
ass.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if it sucks because the story is so good. I'm absolutely enthralled every time that I watch it, even though it's so obtuse. You have to go into your like settings in order to get into your queue, in order to like do a whole bunch of bullshit. The subtitles are all fucky. When 2 people are talking, it's awful. You can't tell who's saying what. Funimation's garbage as far as the player goes. Don't get me wrong. Fuck that shit. But man, they buy the best like licenses. They have such good anime that they put on there. It blows my mind. But anyways, Haikyuu Story is this old ass book that is now being animated, and the first episode blew me away between animation, between what was going on with the story. They like immediately went really dark with it, where they're like, okay, so there's this person who's playing music and there's an orphan with them, and they're just on the streets trying to make money, and now the person playing music's fucking dead. So good luck, orphan. And then there's some spiritual shit going on. Really, really beautiful, amazing soundtrack. So I didn't expect anything from it, and then as soon as I was watching it, I was like, oh man, this is another special thing. How do they keep doing this? And that's coming off of, I see anime and I'm like, oh, you guys can't miss out on this one. These are like a different kind of, not for everybody. They're more dense. They have a lot more behind the scenes interesting stuff going on. Really, really appreciate shows like that, and I don't think we get those often in any kind of media.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I mean, even without having seen it, the goal for most studios and I mean people really, individuals, is to make money. So you oftentimes don't get properties that want to tell a story that people that you kind of know most people aren't going to like it's going to cause people to be uncomfortable and all this other kind of stuff. So the people that do end up trying those things and just being like, yeah, fuck it, I want to tell the story I want to tell, I usually end up liking those things a lot more.
So passionate. Like, highly recommend those two
and
to you.
We'll get
if
this,
you want to
we'll
check
get into this
something
later
out,
with
those are what,
we'll get into this later with Star Wars, I'm sure, but when it comes down to it, is like the passion is really what I think
what drives
to
you.
me. Yeah. I make a shitty whatever the fuck you want, but if you're passionate about what you're doing, like, that speaks to me more than what I'm seeing. I guess the intent behind what you're making oftentimes will hook me more than, like, necessarily what I'm seeing on screen.
Yeah, so. And one of the things with anime too, that maybe not everyone's as familiar with, but there are so many different styles between all the different shows, and styles remain kind of their own era when they began, but they slowly shift into whatever modern anime is doing, modern kind of looks, modern animation techniques and procedures. You can tell different influence. So when you look back at that old ass anime and see how they were making that, it has a specific style that everything is similar to each other, even if they're made by different people, different studios, different whatever. It still has this general feeling of that era. So Star Wars Visions doesn't feel like that classic Cowboy Bebop kind of anime. It feels incredibly modern, despite there being so many different styles of anime that do draw from, like, oh yeah, there's a little story we'll talk about that's kind of like Astro Boy inspired. But the animation is more like American cartoons. It's more fluid and smooth compared to a lot of anime that are choppier. Right. Just based on those character designs and the art style. Anime's come a long way since back then. It's just everything is different. Anime doesn't look like anime all the time now.
Right.
But if it started at a certain point, or if it was a story that was created like 20 years ago, we had the manga for it, now we're getting an adaptation, it will have a bit different look. It'll have that more classic look while also being modernized.
Yeah.
And I feel like Star Wars Visions is entirely modern. And that's something that, like, I don't know where I was going with it exactly, but
well,
I lost my way. But the point is,
I did have
really
a couple
appreciate,
ideas based on what you said.
Yeah, I really appreciate just all these different styles, all these different kinds of ideas that they go into these stories with. Like, okay, what would be a compelling art style to tell this story? Whether they go with something that they're familiar with and what their studio does, or something less familiar, but it feels more grounded. We will talk about it, but Trigger has two different animations. One, you're like, yeah, that's Trigger. The other one, no fucking clue who it could be, but it was Trigger. They just changed their style to be a lot more grounded. I don't know. I like that. I like that there is that passion there that shows that they have different intent with their stories, even with just the animation.
Yeah. Well, and we did talk about this when we were just kind of discussing the anime, prior to actually recording, but how we felt about, I don't know, certain aspects of the episodes, right? And you and I clearly value different things, which I think is a great reason for discussion. But Trigger specifically doing something that I think that they knew they were comfortable with and knew how, and doing Star Wars in their usual style and then also trying something differently shows me, at least, that like they do have the passion to, they weren't phoning it in.
Nobody was. What the fuck? This was all great. We'll talk about all that specifically later. But yeah, no, absolutely. There's passion behind all of these projects in different ways. Whether they just want to go for like a general feeling of Star Wars, or they want to go for more world building, or they want to go just into that one specific topic. Whatever.
And Trigger specifically is so visually, I mean, you can pick out most of their mainstay animes and be like, oh, that's Trigger for sure. And so the fact that they tried to pull back from that a little bit and do something different, I'm like, man, what a, and I don't know the politics of the studios like you do, but
I have a theory behind it.
But for me, I was like, man, what a brave thing for an animation studio to do. Get away from the stuff that they know they do well to try to, branch out. I mean, look at even now, from the time Dragon Ball started to now with Dragon Ball Super, I think they've made some pretty awesome strides and done some pretty awesome things, but I wouldn't say they've necessarily branched out. And, to be fair, Akira Toriyama draws how he draws. So,
yeah,
you're not going to, stray from that too far. But for an animation studio to depart so drastically from what they know they do well and what has proven to do well, I think that's fucking cool. And if you're going to take on something so beloved as Star Wars, like that is the kind of energy you need to go into it with like, let's just fucking go all out. Try to do something different.
So my theory is Trigger has also been hired to make a Cyberpunk 2077 short. That's going to come out in 2022. And I feel like their typical Trigger, over-the-top anime, cartoonish, bombastic style in a cyberpunk setting, yeah, it makes sense. But part of cyberpunk that just the whole genre of cyberpunk, the whole setting,
right?
The interesting part is that it takes these surrealist things, but it grounds them in reality to where you could have somebody who's half of their face is just all robot stuff. Who fucking knows? It's cyberpunk. Who gives a shit? That's the crazy part, and then the rest is all grounded in reality. I have a theory that Trigger is going for that more realistic approach for their upcoming project. And this was their first little like dipping their toes in because they got to do 2 shorts instead of just 1.
Right.
So
I don't know. Why not get paid to practice, right?
Yeah. Or it could just be an additional little team that they assembled for a different story.
Classic.
They're going to work on 2 different things all the time.
Yeah. Classic Disney animation is Pocahontas and Lion King were being worked out on the same time.
Yeah.
And Lion King was the B team because, Disney was sure that Pocahontas was going to be the big movie. So they put their A team on it, and fucking Lion King destroyed Pocahontas.
Dude, and there's in anime, I'm sure that you've watched a little bit of Darling in the Franxx, or at least heard of it.
Not even an episode.
All right, well, I thought you were a Trigger fan, but it turns out, go fuck yourself, Abe.
Yeah. You probably told me to watch it, and so I didn't.
I don't really care about Darling in the Franxx at all, honestly. It was cool. It was fun to watch, but there's a studio that worked on that used to be a part of A1 Pictures, and they are called Cloverworks Studio. So this was Trigger and A1 were teaming up to make Darling in the Franxx, and it was like, whoa, this is gonna be crazy. And then A1 was like, actually, that's our B team that's working on it, Cloverworks. And Cloverworks kind of just became their own thing, and were able to make a bunch of incredibly successful shows and have their own unique styles and storytellings compared to A1 Pictures. They just like wound up shining so hard. And then after they separated, it was like they made all the things that I liked from A1 Pictures. Huh. Okay. I love it whenever studios have that A and B team because they give things for different people. Like, yeah, the A team is putting out some great Trigger stuff. You love it. The B team putting out some new Trigger stuff for people that might not be fans of the other stuff Trigger does.
Well, that's a thing that I think is specific to anime more than other types of animation is I actually think Brian Posehn said it.
Oh, love the guy.
When he was on a talk show and somebody asked him about, funny enough, Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was after the episode 7 came out, and they were like, well, isn't it just like episode 4? And he's like, yeah, episode 4 is like steak and potatoes. And then episode 7 is like more steak and potatoes. Are you going to really complain that you get more of what you like?
Dude, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So anime studios, they have this, this ability to, like, the bigger ones at least, they'll give you more of what you like, but then you have other animators that are like, all right, well, let's try to go this new route too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that ends in studios splitting into different factions, but sometimes it leads to studios evolving in a way that's like, okay, well, let's combine these kind of two types of directions we've been going in and create something new. And I don't know. It doesn't always work out. It doesn't always happen. But when it does, it's like, oh, fuck, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was really exciting for Darling in the Franxx to be like, oh, Trigger's teaming up with A1 Pictures? What the fuck? It was pretty stoked. Or I was pretty stoked when that was announced. And then watching the show, it felt a lot more A1 than Trigger. But by the end, they were like, yeah, we're going to space and there's giant robot mechs and Mothra Trigger. And I was like, all right, yeah, there they were. They were hiding. They just had to wait until the end to flourish. Yeah, but anyways, I feel like we've discussed enough about fucking bullshit, whatever. Is there any anime you've been watching recently, aside from Star Wars Visions and Demon Slayer? Because I know that you watched both of those with Kate recently, but...
No, honestly, you got me thinking about, like, the more recent stuff that I've watched, and besides those two, it's all been, like, sports stuff. Like, Haikyuu is super fun. I love Haikyuu.
Oh, my God. Haikyuu is one of the best shows I've ever seen.
But then it got me into... I don't think I've ever told you this, but I watched all of Prince of Tennis.
I had, in my mind, I was like, this motherfucker's about to talk about Prince of Tennis. I know it. It was either that or suddenly right before you said it, I was like, or Kuroko's basketball. Anyways.
No, I didn't watch Kuroko's basketball, but I actually did have the entire manga series of iShield 21. That was one of the only other ones that I finished.
Yeah.
And a lot of really fun characters in that one, by the way. But terrible anime. Great manga, terrible anime.
Yeah, I watched an episode and went, ooh.
Yeah, it looks terrible. But yeah, I can't really help you out with that one. I as far as what I've been consuming from a media standpoint, it's been mostly books and games. I haven't really been watching the anime.
Hey, that's okay, man. When Attack on Titan comes back, I know that you're going to be right there watching it with the rest of us.
We have not. We're not caught up on Attack of Titan.
I know you're not, but when the last season's coming in, you will be there with the rest of us. Yeah, it's gonna actually end. So
I do really like it. We just, man, with like the kid coming and the nature of my job, for those that don't know, is kind of stressful. We reach a point where we're like, all right, we're at maximum stress capacity, and I don't want to see anything else and we're right at the point where Aaron transforms and he's fighting with the Titans in whatever major city that was. Sorry if I'm saying spoilers.
A little bit of spoilers, but luckily you're vague enough. But yeah, you were a little bit into some of the anime. Yes.
Yeah, but I reached a point where I was like, oh, I gotta take a break. But
yeah.
But the point there is, I think, read some manga, guys. It doesn't always have to be anime, because you know what? There are some great manga out there that don't translate well into anime, because sometimes anime, it makes you watch it at its pace, right? Whereas like manga, there are parts, especially a show like the original Dragon Ball Z anime where they have episodes 30 minutes long that are just like a guy, like Goku screaming. Mm-hmm. That only happens for a couple pages in the manga. So I know this is an anime podcast, but there is value to manga, and I really enjoy that aspect of it where you're like, all right, cool, we're getting on with the story, right? We're not having to. And obviously, anime these days is less fillery, but that's my little PSA.
My little PSA is, yeah, if anime is appealing to you, definitely go and read the manga because they are different things. And a lot of the times, the anime doesn't get picked up for a second season, so then you wind up seeing Land of Lustrous and going, fuck, this was one of the best things I've ever seen. When is the next season going to happen? And 5 years go by, and then you're like, yeah, the manga is amazing. I'm so happy that I get to keep up with that. And then the manga goes on hiatus, and you go, I'm going to fucking kill myself. I hate being an anime manga fan.
Now that you said that,
yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
You like the manga?
I didn't read the manga, but someone turned me on to the anime, and like now I'm understanding that the anime might not continue.
Why would you say that? There's a movie coming out.
I don't know. I just go off what I've heard.
Don't listen to whoever that is. Come to me. I know everything, even about things that I don't like.
Kaisen. Super likable characters. And
Jujutsu Kaisen's a lot of fun, and that's all that I have to say about it. Looks really good, a lot of fun, really good music. The outro's the best of that year, and I didn't care about the plot. The characters are fun, but I didn't give a fuck once they started introducing the other like classes.
That makes sense.
At that point, I was like, yeah, I think I'm out. I really wanted to be into the panda, but I was like, yeah, we're not getting enough of the panda. Instead, we're getting the guy talking about. He's just sexist. We're just getting a misogynist.
Dude, it gets better. Spoiler alert.
I'm sure.
He turns into a gorilla.
Yeah.
Gorilla panda. So that's pretty much all I need to say about that, I think.
Oh, you convinced me. But no, Jujutsu Kaisen had such good action. Has one of the sexiest dudes in anime. It was a really fun thing to watch. And then I was like, I don't think I'm as into it to keep watching it after the first half was done.
That doesn't surprise me, honestly. A problem with a lot of stylish anime is that they don't really continue having substance. And, going back to something like Cowboy Bebop, that is where it's like forte is. It's always stylish, but it has so much substance. Like I still remember the ending to that so vividly. Whereas like a lot of other things that I've seen, it's like, I have to be reminded before I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that happened. But, it's hard to... Cowboy Bebop is one of those that's like, it's lightning in a bottle, right? It's so hard to capture everything that it captured. So, can't compare everything to Cowboy Bebop. I do, but you're not supposed to.
No, and I absolutely wouldn't ever, because I feel like there are other shows that shine so much brighter. But Cowboy Bebop has this specific genre where it does its thing so well. It nails it. It's like, it's the... Oh, man, I'm forgetting the name of the show. And it's the Firefly of anime. You know what I'm saying?
Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
What are you talking about?
It's the Firefly of anime. You ever watch Firefly? That shit was fucking amazing.
Dude, it's like... Okay. All right, stop insulting me. It's like one of my favorite shows.
I know.
But I don't know what you're talking about from an anime perspective. That's your job.
Oh, well, Firefly was incredible, and so was Cowboy Bebop, and they're both very episodic.
And someone out there is going to know what anime we talked about.
Yeah. Future space, kind of Western styles of storytelling about bounty hunters and about just vibes. Yeah. Long story short, we do talk about manga on here whenever we've read it. It's not super common, but sometimes there are just things that grip you really good, and it's more easy to go and consume all of the manga than to wait years before the second season of Attack on Titan comes out.
Yeah, well, I guess that was kind of more just like, really going back to what you said earlier, or what you asked me earlier was, what my introduction to anime was. It was manga. Manga was really it.
That'll do it.
That was the thing that I consumed way before I even really had a chance to get good anime or stuff that was animated well, you know.
I didn't even know about manga until I already figured out what anime was for me and what wasn't. It was just like, oh shit, wait, there's a source material for this? I have been missing out. And then high school, I read a bunch of manga. It's good times.
Yep. I just donated it all to my work, all the manga that I had accumulated for my entire childhood.
Gotta make new weebs, man. You gotta make new weebs. For people that don't know, Abe does work with youths who would read some nerd ass shit and then immediately consume everything that there is related to it.
It's funny because I have seen, when I've been working in certain areas of my building, I have seen some of the kids with manga that I'm like, I know for fucking sure that's mine.
Hell yeah, dude, you did it.
And I'm like, just ask me about it. Ask me about it.
Hey, you ever hear about this manga? Yeah. Bitch, we talking.
Yeah.
But I think that's enough of an intro. Are you happy with what you've said about anime and your relationship with it and your opinions and shit? Or do you want to
No, actually, I retract it, and I hate anime and manga and all of you.
Then you're going to love all this news. Because we're going to talk about some anime news, man.
No, I love all of you, by the way, and I'm ready to talk about anime news.
All right, you fucking weeb. Just quit jerking off over the anime news.
Nope, I won't.
Hey, what about Demon Slayer? You okay with jerking off over that? I'm gonna if you want in.
I haven't stopped jerking off over Demon Slayer.
Perfect. Then Demon Slayer Season 2 is going to start on December 5th. Interesting thing about Demon Slayer Season 2. The intro song, a lot of people love Lisa. Lisa's great. Lisa's not going to be able to come back for the intro because she is taking a hiatus right now. So instead, we're getting Aimer. And I fucking love Aimer. So this is going to be dope as hell. Pretty excited about that for the intro and the outro for this new season coming up. Then a little tidbit about the first episode of the season that airs on December 5th. It's going to be an hour long. It's going to be an hour long episode. And it should be a pretty good time. Then we have more Demon Slayer news. So the Infinity Train arc and the Entertainment District arc are coming to Crunchyroll. So you don't have to watch all that shit on Funimation, because I know your opinions on Funimation are very dismal, and I can't help but...
it's bad. It's bad.
I completely agree with you, man. The apps are really difficult to use. They don't work sometimes. The subtitles are trash. So you could watch it on Crunchyroll. It's going to be pretty dope. Anybody that hasn't seen the Infinity Train arc, thank goodness you're able to see that, because it's literally a part of the story. So if they didn't get that to Crunchyroll, y'all motherfuckers would be lost. And finally, Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer, last piece of news. Infinity
now
Train,
on the Demon Slayer podcast, more Demon Slayer news.
Infinity Train broke some goddamn records again. It is the first Japanese televised broadcast to be watched by 11 million people. It's apparently breaking records for the 21st century. So if you like your TV, you're maybe a part of that if you live in Japan.
11 million doesn't seem like that much.
That's the thing, though. We have so much streaming service. We have so much like watching after the fact. We've had DVRs pretty much entirely through the 21st century. People watch a lot of things after the fact, and those numbers don't get added into the actual viewer count. Yeah. So 11 million is a fuckload of people, especially just in Japan. And this is for something that you've already seen in theaters. You've already watched at home. You own a DVD for it if you're in Japan, and now it's on TV, and you're like, yeah, might as well watch it. It's on TV. It's like, how does this shit keep breaking records? I don't get it. Demon Slayer's good. It's not that good. Doesn't make sense. So anyways.
People like it.
What record do you think Demon Slayer is going to break next? Is the question that I have for you. You think they're going to break video game sales with their upcoming fighter?
Well,
I know that's a steep one.
okay. What kind of engine are they using? Do you know?
It doesn't look like a fun game, man. Let's just put it that way.
Okay, well then
it looks the same as My Hero and Dragon Ball Z. It's pretty similar to that, except it's a more 3D space. I don't know how many players you could play as, but definitely Tanjiro and Nezuko. I know those two for sure.
I mean, that sounds so basically more like Naruto shit.
I think Naruto was the top tier of all of those kinds of games. And yeah, basically more of that. But
not necessarily entertaining.
Yeah. No, just like,
fun to play.
Just fun while it lasts. It's very flashy. It looks cool.
You know what game that I thought that could have been really interesting if you would have put a little more like ingenuity into the design was like the Attack on Titan game. Like,
oh yeah, sure.
You could make a really interesting game from Attack on Titan.
When they announced it, I was stoked. I was like, I want to swing around.
Exactly. Look at what they did with the mobility from Marvel Spider-Man.
Or all these other games that took it from Marvel Spider-Man.
Right.
Like,
or anything else. But
it's so fucking they just needed shit like that and they didn't quite have it. And it's hard when you're trying to do an anime style. Just not quite there,
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what Demon Slayer's video game would do that other games haven't already done, but I'll be impressed when it breaks more records. I always am impressed that Demon Slayer does that. Mostly because I don't understand any of it.
Yeah, I was like, I think we've only been talking about Demon Slayer for this segment, so yeah, it clearly breaks enough records on its own.
It sure does. Okay, so for the last bits of news, not record-breaking news, but Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy Season 2 has been announced. So fans of this show that just finished airing about a week ago should be pretty happy to see that there is more coming up. It wasn't a show for me, so I don't know a whole lot about it, but fuck, dude, people are jazzed, and I am jazzed for them. Then we finally have
jazz on them.
Yeah, dude, jazz wherever you want to jazz. I'm into it. Jazz on me. World's End Harem episode 1 is going to screen early on YouTube and Twitter for free. What the fuck? Twitter video player? Why would you watch a whole 24-ass episode on that? I don't get it.
Look at the way people are on TikTok. They're on it for hours.
Yeah, scrolling. People are on it for hours, but they're on it so that they could keep scrolling. They're not there to just like sit there and watch the same thing without doing anything.
As someone who doesn't really like have social media, I don't see the difference.
That's totally fair. That is completely fair.
I will say I do see the difference in like the way that we're able to consume in the amount of time we're able to consume media now. I don't think that there's a place in America for a 2-hour movie anymore. It's got to be 90 minutes or bust because we don't have the attention span.
On one hand, I agree with you. On the other hand, I disagree. I think that movies...
Well, that's pretty much...
No.
Yeah.
Hear me out. I think that movies, you can... Yeah, 90-minute movie, that's great. That's what I want to go into a theater for. I want that 90-minute experience. But at home... So many TV shows are an hour long and people sit there and they just fucking watch. You're like, hey man, have you seen this show? No, never heard of it. And that was on Friday. On Monday, they're like, I watched all 4 seasons. Yeah. Weren't they all 1 hour long episodes? Yeah, but I liked it. So I just kept watching. And that's so common. So many people go and binge shows, just no problem at all, that are hour long episodes. So that's where I disagree. I think that people can consume things, but something about the like, oh, well, it's not a full length of a movie. I'll watch it. And then they go, yeah, I liked it. I'll watch another one. And they just get like trapped.
I can't watch a 2-hour movie, but I'll watch a 15-hour series.
And let me be honest with you. I am similar to that. I have a hard time getting into movies unless I watch it with somebody else because I usually want to discuss it because watching a full show, I want to discuss a full show when I watch it. I don't want to just talk about episode to episode usually. I want to wait until it's all out and then really get it out there. For movies, since you watch it, it's all done immediately. If somebody else hasn't seen it, it's a fucking chore, dude. But if somebody else hasn't seen a show, it's like, I mean, I get it, man. It's kind of a big deal. I don't know. It's a very weird, the difference between movies and television, even though they're so similar, I feel like they are so different that they're consumed in different ways.
Well, yeah, it's all mental, really,
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
The point that I get to, I think, is pacing.
Uh-huh.
And you could make a 2-hour movie, right? But if it's paced correctly, the problem with a lot of directors, I think, these days making longer movies is that like they don't have the substance to create that long of a movie, right? But like, clearly this is an anime, but one of the best examples I can think of in the last few years was Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
It is a 90-minute movie, and shit is happening from start to fucking finish. And like, I was leaving the theater before I even felt like I'd even sat down. I was like, oh my God, that movie it kept going. Like, things kept happening no matter, it wouldn't stop, right? And so that's the difference, right? You could, if you have a 2-hour movie, but the pacing is correct and you have the substance to fill those 2 hours, it will feel like you were there for an hour. But the problem is people trying to extend shit to, I don't know, right? Like,
So I just have one question for you.
Okay.
Are you a fan of Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah, I would say I'm a Tarantino fan, but not necessarily for pacing reasons.
Oh yeah, no, me too. That's the thing. I'm like, that motherfucker can make a 3-hour movie and I'll still watch it and I'll bitch about it and then I'll be like, but it was really good. You guys should go see it. It was a really good time.
Well, Tarantino's strength lies a lot in his dialogue and how natural it feels.
And explosions and blood.
Well,
and swear words.
But Michael Bay can do explosions and blood. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but one of Michael Bay's issues is that he makes too much like it's too messy. Too many details, so you can't see the cool explosions and blood the way that you could if Quentin Tarantino does it, where he like backlights all of the things so you could really see the action.
When someone gets shot in a Tarantino film, you're like, holy fuck, that fucker got shot. Like
versus Michael Bay, where you're like, that guy's gonna hurt. I don't know what happened.
I think that guy got shot. He might be injured.
We'll find out in 30 minutes when he shows up again.
Yeah. Well, I could take up at least a few more episodes of your podcast talking about like lighting and pacing and writing.
Anime podcast. You have to talk about anime.
I know.
But yeah, anyways,
Demon Slayer. I don't know.
I think that certain things get away with it. And you just recently watched the Rurouni Kenshin. You just recently watched the live action Rurouni Kenshin movies, and Kate had texted me, "These are so fucking long," and I'm like, "Welcome to live action anime adaptations. They're all longer than 2 hours for no reason."
That's the other thing too, right? Okay, so that goes back to what I was saying about the benefit of manga, where you can just keep
you consume,
going,
you go,
right?
Yeah.
But the live action movie was so true to the original story, right? Like, they gave if for a movie
just try to fit so
format,
much shit in there.
Yeah, but for a movie format, they spent the right amount of time. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing, is as a consumer with the manga, you can just be like, well, this part doesn't interest me, so I'm going to get to the part that does.
Yeah. Or you could just put it down and be like, you know what, I'm done today. We'll get back to it later.
Yeah.
Way harder to do in the middle of a movie. You could watch an episode of a show and go, that's where I'm cutting it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on Twitter, you're telling me you would watch a 30-ass episode?
Yeah. If we're getting back to that, I don't know. I was trying to sound smarter than I am, but I guess the point I'm really making is I don't think anybody has the attention span for that.
No, not on Twitter, but on YouTube, where you get to like throw it on your TV, computer, and just like sit back and watch it. Like, hell yeah! But Twitter is a much more mobile experience, so it's That's
a good point. Yeah.
I'm just intrigued. I thought it was a bizarre thing.
I'm not a TikTok guy. Maybe I would have a more of an understanding. I'm not on my phone very often.
Think of TikTok as long form Vine.
Well, I did Vine while it was around because I was in college and it was funny. But it just, I can't stand being the guy that's on my phone when other things are happening around me. I just don't understand it. And I don't understand the people that like, I saw
it's
videos
an addiction, man. That's all it is.
I saw videos of people doing like dances on airplanes for TikTok, and I was like, how can you possibly be doing this when you are around like other actual people? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's an addiction, and I'm not going to pretend like when I first had an iPhone 10 years ago and was on Facebook, I wasn't on there way more than I should have been. I just kept scrolling even though there was nothing on there. I was fucking addicted to it. And now I turn on Instagram and I'm like, that's the first post, and then I'm off of it. So anything that anybody posted other than that one that I saw, not going to see it. I can't consume the way that I used to be able to.
I don't think that's a bad
thing. That's the thing though, is that I realized how much of a problem I had, and then I stopped. Like, I shouldn't be on this all the time. I don't feel good from it. But I think that TikTok is it's interesting because there are people that just like watch everything, and there are people that create things on there. And I think that the people that create things are addicted in a different way than the people that just watch things.
You're totally right. And also, the people that do create things, that's kind of what the platform is for, right? Is creating things. And I'm never going to bash somebody for creating something, but
there's a
what
time
I will
and a place.
say exactly, there is a time and a place, and some people don't understand that there is a limit to there is a positive and a destructive way to create something, and you are not helping anybody, including yourself, out by creating something in a destructive manner or for a destructive reason.
I think that another part
I wish that people would, have a, clearer understanding of like, hey, this world might be a little bit better if we try to do things in a positive way.
I think that another part of that, though, Abe, is that you are in that sweet spot where you were a little bit older than a lot of the people that had that addiction problem when it was just accessible at all times.
Right.
You're a little bit older. You didn't have a phone that allowed you to do that, and you developed further. A lot of people just get stuck in it because, as a kid, you're growing up and shit, dude. You're on every single social media website, and then it's all in the palm of your hand, and you keep doing that. Right. You just happen to be developed enough to like miss out on some of that. And you see both sides to where like old people are also addicted to it because they weren't as experienced with all this kind of stuff. It just hit them in a different way. Absolutely. So I think you are one of the lucky people who barely missed out on how fucked up all this shit could be, while also seeing the other people around you getting fucked up on all that shit.
Well, here's the thing. I'm also a contrarian, and I always have been. And
you're also a goddamn liar.
It's not, it's not the best part of my personality that I adamantly try to do the opposite of what most people like to do.
Hey, man.
Even if I also might like what other people are like, the majority of people are doing, I just, when the majority of people are doing something, I usually go, I'm not going to do that, because I don't know. I have a weird thing about like getting addicted to things or being part of the the crowd. And so that in itself is also an issue. It's a lesser known issue. Kate all the time tells me, like, you would like this if you weren't so adamant about not liking the things that other people like.
I'm going to build on that in a second, but I would like to say that's it for the news. That's all the news that we have. We're going to talk about Star Wars in a second.
Fuck news.
But I do want to address, dude, in high school, I was a fucking hipster ass bitch. I get it. Man, I didn't want to deal with anybody's like popular shit. I was like, no, I found this niche thing that's my thing, and I like my goddamn thing. I don't want to be a part of yours. And then at a certain point, I went, well, let's just like see why all these people jump on this kind of shit. And I realized how much fun it is to jump on trends with other people, and that you all get to like them. Yeah, well, even if you don't like it, you get to experience like, oh man, so many people are so positive and like full of all this excitement, even if it's something that you don't really care about.
That's a good point. Well,
that's kind of how I experience it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it also might depend on the people that are already on the bandwagon that you're jumping on, right? Like,
I guess
I've not. Well, okay, so here's a good example of like me and you, right? Like, I wouldn't say that I've always been into the things that you've been into.
Oh, for sure.
Based on the people that you've surrounded yourself with and the friends that I've made through knowing you, I am more willing to try things that like I don't think that I would like, or maybe I never would have tried in the first place, because I'm like, well, I trust Chris's taste in people, and I trust that these people that he's surrounded himself with, I'm more willing to try things that maybe I wouldn't like, because I like being around these people, right?
I'm the same way, man. Like, there are a lot of things that I immediately go, ooh, don't know if I'm going to be into that. Does not sound like it's going to appeal to me. But at the same time, I don't want to go into it being like, nah, fuck this shit. This shit sucks. Even though that's kind of what I initially, like, for whatever reason, that's my initial, like, no, you put up a barrier. You put it up, man. So then I have to actively go, like, why am I being that way? I just need to check it out. And, like, suddenly I have this open opinion about so many things. I'm like, yeah, I'll pretty much check anything out, try anything out that people say is solid. But at the same time, it's important, I think, to have that like guard up to make sure that you're not wasting your time with things that you don't like.
Yeah.
But it's also important to expose yourself to new experiences and new things, and maybe just go like, holy shit, wait, this is totally for me.
Yeah, it would be so easy for me to cut myself off from the rest of the world.
Oh yeah.
I'm so like adamantly, I don't like, you know, the usual what everybody else likes most of the time, but that's the benefit of making close personal relationships, is like, well, you know, like, you know, and here's another example, right? Is like when we started playing Werewolf, and those types of, and you know, with Among Us, games like that have become very popular with like interpersonal reaction, and you know, trying to lie to your friends and it's fun or whatever. I hate it. I hate trying to lie to people I like.
Yeah, it
feels terrible to me. That's why I don't play those games,
and that's totally fine. Yeah,
but the fact that I even tried to play those games in the first place because you know, if it weren't for having people that I cared about and having people that I liked in my life, I would never even tried.
Yeah,
but I did try, and you know, you build different relationships with people the more that you have experiences with them, right? And so in that sense, you know, you gain friendships and you gain relationships that are important and dear to you, even if it wasn't something that necessarily was your thing, right?
I do want to say this. I think it's interesting because you go into those kinds of situations like, oh, I don't like those because I hate lying. And I go into those situations as I want to band together with my friends and work together to figure something out. That's what I get out of that. I'm like, oh, cool. We get to see how our other friends think and how they would come up with situations that might like, not necessarily deceive, but just like ways that they could craft their own kinds of stories and how they pay attention to their friends and listen to each other. Paying attention to like the little details of, oh yeah, my friend would normally react this way to this kind of a thing, and they seemed a little bit off. Just for me, that's helping me get to know my friends better so we could bond closer and work as a team and figure out who is acting a little bit different and is doing that. I don't like lying to people. That's the part that I hate. Yeah, I'm with you, man. But for me, those kinds of situations are like, yeah, I like seeing us all support each other and all try to like boast each other's good qualities.
Well, you know, and I think this is a perfect segue into my other podcast, which is
let's do it.
BAOP cast, Brothers and Others podcast. It's a real play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. But the reason why I even got into Dungeons and Dragons in the first place is because that one time you invited me over to play Pathfinders, and what an incredible, by the way, if nobody on here knows what a fucking incredible dungeon master Chris is.
Really?
Oh my god, dude!
I think I did it once or twice.
Yeah, and I think the first time that you did it was when we were at your place and we played Pathfinders together, and you know you had
there was just like a written scenario that
you had a scenario, you had a guide, right? But then we got to the end of the scenario clearly.
That was fun.
And we started, you know, everybody that was playing was like, hey, can we try this? And you were like,
sure.
Yeah, fuck it. Like, do whatever you want.
Are you going to have fun? Let's have fun.
And we ended up like, like an acrobat, a dwarf, and like, we ended up like lashing ourselves to a dragon to try to slay it.
As it was escaping.
Yeah. But I had so much fucking fun. That's what ended up like getting me into D&D in the first place, is because like you're so open and willing to trying new things and having fun with your friends and really like, I mean, just being a genuine person. That's like my favorite thing about you, Chris, is that how genuine you are. And as long as everybody's having fun, it's like, yeah, let's fucking do it, you know? And so, yeah. I didn't start the podcast, but I was on it. And so anyways, you know, BAO Brothers and Others podcast. If anybody would like to listen to a real play Dungeons and Dragons podcast, we've gone through a couple different scenarios.
Yeah. Anyways, who do you play?
I play a couple different characters, but I'm always small. So my first character was a female dwarf.
Juan would like that. Just a heads up. Juan would fucking love that.
My first character is a female dwarf. My second character was a gnome.
Oh, okay.
And then my third character was a halfling.
Gotcha.
I love the fact that I don't normally think like I would be a small person, you know, in real life. And the challenge it gives me, thinking like, okay, what would I do if I was fucking half the size I was?
Yeah, it's always fun thinking about things like that and just totally switching it up. Yeah. Brothers and Others podcast. Check it out, everyone.
The point there was that what a fucking stand-up friend you are, and just
thanks, bud.
I don't know if it gets mentioned on here enough.
No. Juan just tears me down every episode. He's just like, man, if only I wasn't doing this with such a stupid piece of shit. Absolute waste of space.
Juan, by the way, for those that don't know, is also a fucking stand-up dude. He got invited to mine and Kate's baby shower and was just like such a fucking pro with the kids, like turning them on each other. And
Dude, Juan's told the whole story on the podcast.
Oh my God.
It was fantastic.
It was the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen.
I'm just there like with my head in my hand going, what the fuck, Juan? You're seriously like pitting these kids against each other? And like,
That's an important life skill, I think. It was my favorite part of the baby shower.
It was so classic Juan. Just starting shit between people that didn't need anything like that going on.
Yeah,
so fun.
Children. He's starting shit between children.
Yeah. Yeah, like young children too. Not like preteens.
No, like 5s and 6s.
So good. So funny. All right. Hey man, thanks for flattering me. I haven't felt more flattered on this podcast ever. I want to talk about Star Wars Visions so we don't have to, be absolutely. As honest anymore.
Yeah, let's get real mean now with Star Wars.
Okay, so like we said, we both enjoyed Star Wars Visions. It was great. Me, as somebody who is a bit more critical of Star Wars, and you, as somebody who is a bit more critical of Star Wars.
Fair enough.
But no, this was a whole different experience because I don't know if you've watched like Clone Wars and stuff like that, but
I did.
Yeah, there's all these Star Wars animations out there. They exist, but they're American, and it's pretty straightforward being like, all right, hey, you're making a Star Wars thing. These are the Star Wars sources. Like, it's very near and dear to so many people that work on all these Star Wars projects. Then they just went, hey, Disney, you fucked up like a whole ass like trilogy. How about let's give some stuff over to Japan, which is like, whoa, okay. Japan hasn't been involved in Star Wars yet. What's going to happen?
Not really.
And, well, they absolutely crushed it. I don't know what was done. It feels like certain things, they were given prompts for like, hey, you guys should maybe like consider these things, especially, considering The Mandalorian and the recent trilogy. They put a bigger emphasis on the crystals that power the lightsabers, and that was a big theme throughout all of these. It hasn't been a big part of Star Wars for that long, and they really put some emphasis on it. So I thought it was interesting that they were going more for like, hey, there's a new plot point in Star Wars that we really want to keep like doing stuff with, or Japan was just like, that's cool, let's do that recent stuff. I don't know. And they're all from different studios, but they all worked with Disney. So Disney might have had a lot of influence, might not have had too much. They might have like checked in and been like, that looks good. Or they might have been more of a, do this, try that, let's see this. I don't know. No idea. But we'll break it down episode to episode, starting from the first and not jumping forward as best as we can. And then kind of do an overall discussion about it. So starting off, we had the first episode, which was the Duel. This was animated by the studio Kamikaze Douga, and I'm familiar with them from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure intros, from Pop Team Epic, Gal and Dino, but most importantly, Ninja Batman, which I fucking hated. And this looks
baby!
This looks a lot like Ninja Batman, so I was not anticipating anything good. I was pleasantly surprised. I had a good time with this. Not my favorite out of all of them, but I had a real good time. And I laughed really hard at one part that I thought was stupid as hell. So, anyways, the general thing with this one is there's a Ronin type dude. He's in town. Nobody knows who the fuck he is. He's just kind of there. And then Empire comes in, and it's like feudal Japan style. And the Empire chick has like a cool lightsaber umbrella thing. And she's threatening people, and they're shooting back and trying to defend. It winds up being a duel between the Ronin and the head of the Empire.
Wait. Are you telling me that the episode named The Duel ends up being a duel?
I'm not fucking around, man. Believe it or not, yeah.
Fucking God.
I know. That's all it was. It was just a little duel. Turns out the plot didn't fucking matter in this episode. It was just about a duel for no real reason that we know of. They could expand on this in the future, I think. They probably won't. I don't think that they should. But man, what a cool concept. Take the concept, apply it elsewhere. What about you?
Yeah.
What was your initial opinion?
No, that's a great point, actually, as this doesn't necessarily have to be a story, because there are stories within this series that I feel like should specifically be expounded upon. This isn't one of them,
No.
but I really love the idea. We're not really giving away spoilers here, right?
So the way that we should do this is just kind of generally talk about like what was good for you, what worked well. And then if you wanted to talk about spoiler, like each episode, we will have spoilers between each one.
Okay.
Generally, if people don't want any spoilers at all, I would say I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I wish I was, but I haven't been able to get into it like everyone else. And I had such a good time with Star Wars Visions. I don't think that you need to be a Star Wars fan in any capacity to enjoy this. I think that they're so inspired and so cool. But if you are a Star Wars fan, you might get more out of it than if you're not. These are just some really cool little short stories that sometimes have stories, other times have fight scenes, and that's about all there is to it. Very different animation styles. It's so cool. Like if you ever, I guess I was going to give a bad example, but I will give it anyways. If you've ever watched the movie Memories from the 90s, that had 3 short stories that were all very visually different, very like different tones, but they shared a similar kind of thought process behind the stories of each. Just super vague. I feel like this is doing the same thing. They're just like, is it a Star War? Okay, do whatever you want. That's all. Just like it exists in that universe now.
Are you warring in the stars? All right. I guess that's fine.
So yeah, the duel. Feel free to, like, that was the general plot of it. We're going to spoil fucking everything. Have fun.
Yeah. So, all right. Duel, right? It is very much derivative of multiple other properties based on the same story. So I'm having trouble remembering the director's name, but he's a classic director. He made Seven Samurai.
Takanobu Mizuno.
Thank you. It is very much taken from that idea, and you know, if you know the story, which has been done they did an anime called Samurai 7, which was the same as this.
This is nothing new. This isn't special.
No. America took it and made Magnificent Seven, which was a Western in the 70s, and also they remade it in like the 2010s with Denzel Washington. This is a story that's been told 1,000 times, but it's kind of like they took that idea and then added Rurouni Kenshin.
Sure.
Say.
I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, that's really all I can say about it from a critical standpoint, but also just like take that idea, take that and think about it and think about how cool that would be to watch and go like, yeah, okay, I'd fucking watch that. Like,
yeah. So in general,
I can't say much about the episode from it wasn't novel. It wasn't super original, but like it was fucking cool. Like,
absolutely.
That's pretty much, don't try to be looking at it from a real critical standpoint, but like it was cool to see.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll give it that,
So in general with these, they're all like 13-ish minutes long. There's not a whole lot that they could do with the story. With this one, it's all done in black and white with a heavy emphasis on the red of the lightsaber that we see from the Sith. And then the Ronin also happens to have a red lightsaber. And they're like, the fuck is going on, my guy? Like, I thought that you were a good guy. He's just a Sith. He's taking out another Sith. They have a kick-ass fight. Like I said, she had like a lightsaber umbrella. It was really cool. It was an attachment to her lightsaber that she took off. And then she just had like a regular-ass saber. That was fucking sick. I love that. And I was pissed for a sec because like they could do all this stylish stuff and it was cool that they were making it all feudal Japan. But then the Ronin pulls out his lightsaber out of a sheath, and I was like, that's fucking like, stupid. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Why would you need that if it's just light? You just press a button and then the saber comes out. And then he used his sheath and it was another lightsaber. And I was like, go fuck yourself, man. That was amazing. Good job, you guys. So
Dude,
like some really fun
right
fights,
there with you.
really cool concepts. But overall, it didn't feel like it had enough substance for me. It was just fun.
So here's the thing, right? Like, I'm right there with you as far as when he pulled his lightsaber out of the sheath. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
You stupid. Because both of us have seen Ninja Batman. This was like the giant buildings turning into battle mechs that look like Batman and Joker.
Ninja Batman, for those that haven't seen, hurt me physically.
You're a huge Batman boy.
It's one of the only pieces of media I've ever stopped watching midway. I was like, I'm not finishing this. Yep. I'm not doing it.
I'm with you, but
yeah, the fact that here's the thing, right? Is like,
I think don't talk too much about just this.
No, I know.
Let's keep it short.
But I think that they may have known their reputation and how stupid the whole like pulling a lightsaber out of a sheath was.
Well, again, yeah,
and the fact that they followed that up with like they turn it into it, and so it's like someone who's watching it like, oh, like you're not just a bunch of idiots. That's cool.
For me, knowing the studio has worked on Gal and Dino and Pop Team Epic, both shows that are comedy shows, and a part of comedy is to subvert expectations and do the unexpected. They did it. They did it great, and they did it in a cool way instead of a comedic way. Yeah, good job.
And honestly, really a great way to, like, in my opinion, to open this thing. Right?
Yeah,
it wasn't something that was super.
It has
fringe.
Serious tones, but it wasn't serious.
Yeah, and it was very much Star Wars, right? Like, it wasn't super out there and trying to challenge somebody's perspective. It was like, this is a lightsaber fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're clearly coming here because you're a Star Wars fan, let's kind of let you dip your toes in. And so to me, I was like, this is a pretty great start.
And then we went into Tatooine Rhapsody, made by the Studio Colorido. We know them from Netflix's recent A Whisker Away, which was a very fun, Ghibli-esque, simple family movie. This kind of hit that same point where it was a very fun, whimsical time. It's about a band that's playing music, and there's a motherfucker in the band who's about to get got by Jabba the Hutt.
Who's also a Hutt. Right?
Yeah, he is a Hutt. He's named Guy. He's got a little nose ring. He's a rock and roll guitar player. We had a really
he was a bass player.
Rock and roll bass guitar player.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Get it together, Chris.
We had a triple alien on the drums. We had a cool...
That was a great idea. Fuck, I love that idea so much.
That person wore a tank top that I thought was a really cool design. Yeah, and then we also had our main dude who looked like a squidling kid from Splatoon. He put his hair up in a ponytail, and I was like, that motherfucker's a Nintendo character. And I liked him. He was cool. We had an android. She was tight too, and I think that was it. It was just 4 members of the band, right?
Yep.
Anyways.
Android was the guitarist, Guy was the bassist, triple-headed guy, drummer, and then
singer and lead guitar.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, the whole plot of this was their band, the Hutt, is going to get executed. They come up with a plan. Hey, let's play one last show. And then everyone was stoked. And that's the whole idea. It's just fun. This one was just fun. And it had such cool, fluid animation. It was just full of fun. Nothing substantial at all happens in it. But man, what a good time. Good music, good characters, good settings. We're familiar with Tatooine. We get to see Ben's old home.
And clearly, from the last part of the, where the final concert happens, that is the pod racing stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And, to some, maybe not that interesting, but
no, that's one thing throughout all of this. I was watching it with Kyle, who had watched it with Henry previously. Our friend Henry, his dad he's like an airplane engineer person. He just actually came up with a new fighter airplane that's gonna like it reduces the weight and it's like a much better model and design. So Henry's a fucking aerospace nerd.
Yeah,
he
that sounds
loves
way
all the space
doper than what I do.
Right? Exactly. I'm like, I get it. But he knows all the ships and stuff in Star Wars. So while you're talking about this was the pod racing setting, Kyle had a dude who was just like, that ship's new, that one doesn't exist, that one's this kind of a ship. Like, he knew so much about Star Wars, but he also knew about like those fucking nerdy ass details.
That is crazy.
Right? But that just shows how much detail and attention was put throughout this whole series.
Yeah.
To where, whether it's just inspired by the design of a TIE fighter or it is like a Y-wing or something, it's just they worked hard on this. And they put so much care and detail into certain things. Tatooine Rhapsody, it immediately shows, hey, we know that you guys love this original shit. We're putting it in here, and we're doing our own thing with it. I was okay with it.
Yeah, and also, without giving too much of the episode away...
Give it all away. Who cares?
Well, it's still very much... a Star Wars Sith versus Jedi. There is a lot of that involved, right? So,
yeah.
That's the thing that I found very interesting about a lot of, actually, all of these episodes.
I was going to say.
It did always come back to a Jedi versus Sith thing. Which maybe not always served the story, or at least it served the 10 minutes that they got to make this anime.
But it's classic Star Wars,
Yeah, and really, again, it's something that, like, how I was saying earlier, it feels like coming home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so in that sense, I appreciate it. I will say that I think that they could probably, now that they've established themselves a little bit more from an anime perspective, I think if they continue doing series like this, they could probably depart a little bit more from the whole Jedi versus Sith thing.
For sure. The Twins is done by Studio Trigger. We talked a little bit about Trigger before and how they did different things during this. This is the one that's more in Trigger's style. You might know Trigger from Kill la Kill or Promare more recently. Very bombastic, stylized look to all their animation. And they brought it for a Star Wars story. And this one was a classic Trigger fight. And that's all that I feel like this episode was. But you seem to like it more, so I want you to kind of take the reins on this one.
Yeah, right. Well, okay. I was going to save that whole Brian Posehn quote for now.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you like Trigger, right? Mm-hmm. And you like what they've done already, which I was a huge fan of Kill la Kill. It isn't for everyone, but I like that they were kind of poking, to me at least, it seemed like they were poking fun at the whole fan service thing, even though they were also giving fan service. It's hard to explain. I just thought that it was well done, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. The animation. Flawless. Are you kidding me? This was beautiful. This one was so... The action in this was the best action in, like, all of it. But at the same time, I felt like it was just, like, it was over the top and ludicrous, and it was brand new for Star Wars.
And it also wasn't anything new for Trigger.
Yeah, true.
So I'll give it that.
I mean, the episode opens up with 2 Star Destroyers combined, and I'm like, What the fuck is going on? This is Trigger, you fucking bastards.
But also it would be a story I'd be willing to follow.
Well, that's the
if
thing.
there was more of more of a story, twins born of the dark. So say Anakin, right? Born without a father, of the Force, and people assume that it's of the light side, right? Of the light side of the Force, but you don't really know. The Force is mysterious. The Force is all encompassing. The Force is the light side and the dark side. So I think the synopsis of the episode is like two twins born of the dark side. I'm like, well, how do you know that? How do you know that they're born of the dark side? And so it immediately goes to one of the twins is not trying to follow the dark side type, the whole archetype, that type of thing. So in that sense, I thought it was really cool. What a great idea, right? But then it immediately goes to it's just Trigger doing what they do best.
For me, here's the two things that I thought made this very one of my least favorite out of everything, because it was, god damn it looked so fucking good. But again, it's it felt like, okay, we've already seen Star Destroyers, this isn't anything new, this is Trigger doing extra stuff. But this because of the two conjoined Star Destroyers that felt unrealistic and pointless, it immediately for me went, oh, this isn't Star Wars canon, this is just some made up fan fiction bullshit. It immediately hit that. And then you just mentioned you don't know how the twins were born of Sith or whatever. They actually weren't necessarily born. They were created using Sith alchemy, which is something where you didn't really get that from the episode because the story was weak and they needed to improve that. And that's where I felt like it was so messy and busy. The action was amazing, but all the other shit that they had was like, okay, they're twins. One of them's good, one of them's bad, but they were both bad. That's all it came down to me. Very simple, you write down the ideas, we'll flesh it out later. And then they did, but they kind of got lost. Yeah.
Well,
that's the only reason why I'm like,
I don't know if we touched on this earlier in the episode, but I am a writer. Mm-hmm. And not that I am a professional writer, but I do write. And so the idea that you can try to get an audience to identify with these characters without really fleshing out any sort of backstory, it's kind of criminal. We talked about it when we were discussing TV shows earlier, is that you shouldn't have to explain everything to the audience. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, I did like this episode because they didn't really explain anything, but also you need to at least explain it to yourself as a writer. You need to make it so that it makes sense to you. You can't just make substance or you can't make style with no substance, right?
That's Trigger, though. That's a lot of what Trigger does.
I know.
That's why I love them, is because they have these cool,
but they
things.
Exactly. They do the style part so fucking well. It's so cool to watch.
A little better. That's a lot of people's problems with Darling in the Franxx, is that they had so much that they kept setting up, and then it kind of just fizzled out, and it was just cool Trigger shit at the end. But
that being said, they might be able to fix that. If this is the type of series that keeps going and they keep doing Star Wars Visions types episodes, they could do something. I would be more interested if they did a season 2, if they followed 2 or 3 of the stories they started.
I agree.
In season 1.
I think that that's important to be like, oh, I didn't think we were going to get more of this. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, this was just like a really cool laser fight. They again go back to the kyber crystals. There's like a super kyber crystal. It explodes, a bunch of lasers, different colors, red and blue. We get a little bit of electricity stuff going on. It was classic.
But like, yeah, exactly. It's like exactly like Brian Posehn said way back when. Like, yeah, it was fucking cool, and like it was steak. Cool. It was steak and potatoes, and who doesn't love steak and potatoes? Like,
yeah, and that's why when telling you, I'm like, that one is my least favorite. And that being said, it was fucking good. It was cool.
Well, it was just so. I think it's okay as a critic to like something that's only style. You know what I mean?
You can, as long as you have fun. If it made you have like enough fun for it to be your favorite, awesome. Fuck yeah. That's all that they were going for, I think. And they nailed it.
That's the thing, right? It's like people will challenge you, especially now as a culture we've gotten so.
Oh yeah, what do you like? What's your favorite?
Yeah, like explain why you like this thing. Like, no, you piece of shit. I don't need to explain why I like this thing. It was just cool looking. Yeah,
exactly. Fuck. I've addressed that a lot more in my life. Just shit can just be cool. You don't have to. Exactly. It doesn't need to be special.
It can just be cool. Have fun. And this episode was just kind of cool again.
It was just kind of cool. Which that's. In a very different way, that's exactly how I feel about the next episode, The Village Bride, made by Kinema Citrix, who you know from Rising of the Shield Hero and Made in Abyss. Kevin Penkin came back to do the soundtrack. Everyone was goddamn stoked. I was. This starts out and it's like, whoa, this is like a gorgeous green land. It's very kind of like fantasy feeling. All the people there had like some traditional kind of more like not space garb and whatnot, and there was this takes place a long time after the Jedi purge. Turns out that there is a Jedi that's there just like vibing, and the Sith are trying to take a bride. I don't know, it looked fucking cool. The music was amazing, the atmosphere was great. I didn't care about the story whatsoever, but man, I want to be a part of that world more. I really liked that world so much.
It kind of felt to me like they really understood the idea behind the Sith and the Jedi, right? Or actually, the Force in general.
I think that's a good thing to bring up.
It didn't matter that there weren't factions anymore, right? Like the Jedi and the Sith were factions, two sides of the same coin, and honestly, neither one of them had it right. And you could really make that correlation between religions today is like
all the time.
I think
go
most
watch Midnight
people, Mass. Yeah. Hey, there you go. But I do think that most people believe in a higher power, but everybody seems to have a disagreement on the identity of that higher power or why somebody else's version of that higher power isn't right. And that's the whole idea behind the Jedi and the Sith. They both follow the Force, but different aspects of it. One is a lot more anger, intention based, you know, with the Sith. The Jedi more so, trying to, I guess I would say, more righteous.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
in their own minds, not necessarily to say that, you know, they are more righteous, but to them they are. But this episode was something that, I don't know, kind of straddled the line, I guess, between that to me. And while I will say it wasn't, to me, the most interesting episode, I did like the fact that they tried to. It seemed very unbiased. They were on a planet that obviously understood the Force, was a part of their planet, but it wasn't politicized. It wasn't. They were part of this faction, and they were part of that faction. It was just like, oh, the Force is. It is what it is, and I don't know. I would love to see more properties, Star Wars based, that did something like that, where the Force is obviously an all-encompassing thing that wasn't necessarily good or bad. Funny enough, Kate and I have been talking about her getting into kind of like witchcraft. And the funny thing about witchcraft is, because I was, to be fair, I was raised in a very religious household. Yeah. So the first time she was like, "Oh yeah, witchcraft," I was like, "Oh fuck." But
dude, for me, I'm like, yeah, witches, hell yeah.
Yeah. But the thing about witchcraft is it's
shit, bitch.
Yeah, it's about intention, right? Mm-hmm. And the more I learn about witchcraft, I'm like, oh, okay, like it's, being a witch it can be negative, but it can also be positive. It's about your intention. And
yeah, you ever heard about the Good Witch? Little thing called the Wizard of Oz.
So it's funny that we're getting into this with Star Wars, and so the sci-fi thing is that it's about an intention. The Force can be used for good or for evil. It's about your intention. So this episode, to me, from a critical standpoint, was kind of boring, but
yeah,
I think it is really cool that they are broaching a subject from a philosophical standpoint, because Star Wars is fucking sci-fi bullshit. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
But for it to have permeated our culture so far that you start taking it to a point of like philosophy, like
where you're like psychoanalyzing the different characters.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I talked way more about this episode than I intended to.
I know you did, but you were just like, I'm going to go for it, even though you could have easily said all that for the next episode, The Ninth Jedi, which is made by Production IG, who you might know from Haikyuu.
But The Ninth Jedi was so fucking good without all that
easily.
Shit.
This was my second favorite of everything. It could have been my first favorite.
I think it was my first favorite.
Yeah, it was so fucking good. Essentially, there's a boring ass council of people inside of a cave, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. And then they were like, all right, this guy makes lightsabers. He like smiths crystals and shit. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, they're making these for all that secret Jedi. I guess there's some weird stuff going on. And then this chick, the lightsaber smith's daughter, is fucking dope with a lightsaber, and this is of course something that's been explored in Star Wars before but isn't necessarily canon, to where different characters in this world have different colored lightsabers based off of their personal intent. So she's holding a lightsaber and it's not in it. It's a clear ass lightsaber. And I was like, ooh, that's cool. Oh, that's fucking cool. I was so into the idea that you could see through the lightsaber, but you could still like deflect bullets and shit, like lasers and all that. And anyways, she
Chris,
is pretty comfortable
I'm gonna
with
have
the
to
Force.
stop you right there real quick.
I loved it. Yeah.
You can't stop bullets, because in the Mandalorian Wars, when the Jedi were fighting the Mandalorians and they realized that Jedi could deflect blasters, they started using like actual ammunition, like bullets and shotgun shells to kill the Jedi. So I just want to stop right there to explain to everyone that there's a difference between blasters and
that's why I immediately corrected the lasers. Thanks, Abe, for making me feel like a goddamn... Okay, let's talk about this for a second. So episode 7 came out, and then Kylo Ren was like, I'm just gonna fucking hold this laser and shoot it back. And then Japan was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And every studio put that in their animations for Star Wars Visions. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but you don't need to hold it there like oh my gosh, she's so powerful. Now you could just be like, boom, deflected back. Yeah. And then you go, holy shit, that guy's powerful. We don't need that moment anymore. But all of them made it hang on for so long. And fuck those moments, man. That's my rant. That's my only rant about Star Wars for this episode.
Right?
I thought that was kind of like, guys, I'm tired of it. Show me more cool new stuff.
Well, dude, all of the sequels were so like visually, like when I first saw the trailer to episode 7 and Kylo Ren's lightsaber first came out with like the crossguard part of the lightsaber, I was like, oh my god, so unnecessary, but also so fucking cool.
That's all that shit. I'm like, that's so dangerous. Looks rad. Looks real cool.
Looks super awesome. But
you
also
go back to Darth Maul and do the same thing though. Like
Okay.
Darth Maul, as soon as he did that, I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then as I get older, I'm like, fucking stupid, impractical ass. Like, nobody would fight with that. What the fuck? But if you had like dual sabers, that would be fine. But when you put those together, it immediately becomes, what are you doing? Like, you're extremely limiting yourself, and you could easily hurt yourself with that. But I guess then you could always argue, but the Force.
Exactly. That's the kind of stuff that you argue, like, oh, boy, he's a Force user, so he could. And you're like, all right, fuck you.
That's all you need to say though. That just like that wipes away any kind of like, oh, it's the Force. And that's how I was watching this. I was like, all right, so she's going backwards on her bike that I get her droid is controlling while she's also deflecting all these lasers coming at her. I'm like, this bitch knows the Force real good. Like if something was going wrong, she would be fine. She was rad. And then it turns out that all these Jedi, oh, fuck. They got fucking got, and they were all Sith, and the old whoopsie-daisy trickaroo. And then extra whoopsie-daisy trickaroo of, hey, I'm a big scary robot. Also, I'm just a dude inside of the big scary robot. I'm like,
surprise,
guys, you have to stop tricking me. I've been tricked too many times. Such a cool concept. Such a cool episode.
That was such a great idea. I mean, you could predict what they were doing, especially when that younger character that grabbed can I see the lightsaber, and he takes it and he unsheathes it, and they also were talking about like, oh well, these lightsabers only show up based, their color is based on your intention, right?
Yeah, it shows your intent. Yeah.
Right. So you could kind of base what was going to happen in that episode based on those statements.
But it was also cool being like, oh, that
guy was cool
Sith.
As fuck.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
It was like, oh shit, she's turned into a Jedi, and holy fuck, that Sith just turned into a Jedi. What the fuck's going? Yeah. That was tight, and I want more of it. And show me more.
Absolutely,
give me more.
It's one of the only things we ever agreed on. This
my only gripe with this entire thing was some of the 3D CG was very noticeable, and I was kind of surprised. And then we get into later animations, and I'm like, yo, this 3D CG you can't even tell is 3D. Good fucking job, you guys. So Production IG, I feel like, has the budget, and they didn't care enough, or they didn't have enough time, or something.
You might have a more or a better understanding of this, but like I think at some points studios that are using CG to kind of flesh out their backgrounds or whatever, I think it's gotten to a point where they're less concerned about kind of hiding or making it not as noticeable that they're using CG, because you have whole animes like Beastars that's all they are. Or
but when that's all that they are, but it's a style and it all looks good, that's fine. But when other things are like, yeah, we got like a lot of 2D animation and it's all in this style, and then something that looks like it was just put into Maya, modeled, and then like they put a soft color palette on it and threw it out, That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the general animation style, because like the Duel was all 3D and it looked great. It was all fantastically done. It was a little bit messy at times just because of the general black and white art style. It's sometimes hard to tell what's going on, but it looked fantastic versus the models that they used for this. That was like an asteroid and a building from a distance. I don't know.
Fair enough.
It looked dumb. But then at the end, we got a really cool shot of an asteroid that was a lightsaber, and it was like, oh, okay. Neat. Good job, you guys.
So that's the part that you think is cool? As soon as they started like shooting the light down, I was like, I get it. It's a lightsaber. And then the camera turned upside down, and I was like, I still understand it's a lightsaber. It's not...
The imagery is a cool... It is, man. It's a cool idea... Cool. To show a naturally occurring lightsaber is something that we haven't seen in Star Wars. You don't think that it's cool to see that occur naturally? That's my idea of it, of being like, see, it's in nature as well.
Okay, but you're talking about a whole episode that's playing with the nature of a lightsaber and what its physical properties are, and then you're like, and then this whole space station is a lightsaber. I'm like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, no, the idea of a naturally occurring lightsaber is tight, and that's about it. That's what I saw. I was just like, oh, cool. I haven't seen that before. That's it. Cool concept. Haven't seen it before. But anyways,
fine.
Going on to a totally fucking different style, we have TOB1, which is made by Science SARU. They've done some of my favorite things of all time. Night is Short, Walk On Girl, The Tatami Galaxy, and most recently, they did Japan Sinks 2020. And this is done in such a like Western animation style. It's also very Astro Boy, but it was so much different than everything else. While also feeling like it was a fucking anime, and it had a tiny little story to tell, and it was cool.
It hit a lot of points as far as balance is concerned. You know, it had an Inquisitor, so it's hitting like the Star Wars points of like, okay, this isn't something that's, you know, Inquisitors are not mainline. They're you know, they're Star Wars Rebels, the video games, Jedi Fallen Order. But you know, if you're the typical fan, you kind of understand what Inquisitors are, and so it hit that. But it was clearly very inspired by Astro Boy. But it's also just so pleasant to look at.
Oh my gosh.
There was a lot of great things about this episode from the perspective of like, oh, I'm watching a Star Wars anime.
Uh-huh. This was just like if Dr. Light from Mega Man made Astro Boy.
Oh, dude, it was absolutely Dr. Light without arms.
It fucking was. He made Astro Boy, and then they were like, yeah, and also it's a Star Wars, so
yeah. Also,
it was just all
you're in
these
the Star Wars
things.
universe.
So much fun. It had my favorite little bit of animation where, yeah, the Doctor doesn't have arms. He's like a Jedi guy. He's doing stuff. He's making robots. He made his own like sentient human kind of android boy, like very, very naturally. And he was like, okay, anyways, I gotta fuck off because like Jedi stuff happens, and I'm gonna die forever. And then he like force projects himself to be like, hey, yo, now's the time. You're gonna be a little Jedi, fucking kiddo. I know you've always wanted to your whole life, and I said you couldn't, but now's your time. And then he like gets in a fight. It was okay. And then he upgrades during the fight, and that upgrade, little like animation between him getting an extra jetpack and then doing an attack, it was like a 1 to 2 second sequence, and I was like, that is my favorite thing I've seen in all of this. Not a spectacular story, but that was a cool little section.
Yeah, it was really cool. And also, I don't know, I disagree. Like I felt very strongly about that particular sequence because my understanding of that episode was that Dr. Light Jedi, he had a Padawan named Toby who probably died, and he created this now TOB1,
which is
in the
Toby.
likeness, and through some sort of force, whatever, created this new like force sensitive being, even though he's a droid. It's hard to explain because, you know, whatever, it's Star Wars bullshit, but
yeah.
But I felt really strongly that like they were using the force to create a force sensitive, you know, even though he was a droid, a new force sensitive being. And it just felt really, because, you know, what I said before early in the episode is like, I love robot and android characters, and this character just seems so, even though he wasn't human, it made him somehow seem more human.
Sure, yeah. I mean, he had dreams. It's the only one so far that we know has like a real drive and an actual dream.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like, from a Star Wars perspective, the Jedi and the Sith, they're humans, but they seem so robotic.
Sure,
they're so
like, we have to do this all the time.
Yeah, they're so one track mind type people, and so to have a droid that is like, well, I want to save the planet, but I have this urge that I need to fight this person. They're trying to destroy something, and they're trying to destroy something that I need to save. But I also want to do what's good for the environment. I'm like, oh my God, you're so much more human than the other humans in the show. So yeah, I really like that character in general.
It was fun. It was a really fun little animation. I enjoyed it a lot. And it was right up Science SARU's alley of being like kind of whimsical and taking some liberties with animation while also remaining like very human and grounded. Anyways, the next one, speaking of being grounded, is called The Elder, also made by Studio Trigger. And this one was a way, way more realistic style of animation that I have seen Trigger do at all. It was a pretty simple story of some people landing on a planet and knowing about an elder who was there, who had this like path up to a mountain, and they followed that path, fucked around, and found out. Right?
Yeah, do we can we just get to the next one?
Do whatever. I thought you liked this one.
I did.
I was like, your time to talk. You like this one.
But that's it, right? Like, hey, I'm not a fucking anime genius. Like, sometimes things are what they are, and this was good animation. It was good story building, like from a Star Wars perspective, but it wasn't anything that I thought was novel or ideal.
Okay. Yeah, this was very par for the course, I guess.
Yeah, really. And
I mean,
and
it turned into
not to say that like I wasn't pleased with it, you know?
Mm-hmm. It was well done, yeah.
And there were super cool ideas. I can tell you, I honestly love anything that is the Jedi versus Sith. And the fact that they're even talking about like, well, this, you know, the Jedi versus Sith were, that type of conflict was hundreds of years ago. It doesn't matter to me. The idea that there is a good versus evil, that's really all you need.
Sure. Yeah. And that's all it was. Just the oldest Sith in history chilling at the top of a mountain. He gets beat and crumbles into dust and goes, and then it's over.
Exactly. And so the whole idea that you'd have a Jedi, an ancient Jedi, or an older Jedi versus an ancient Sith. The idea behind that concept would be like, oh well, the fight should be super fucking cool, right? And
it was just a very straightforward
yeah,
time.
it was pretty not cool. So,
That's fine, I guess.
So like, all right, I guess that was the episode.
Mm-hmm. It was chill. I do feel like this one has the least to say about it, just because it was very straightforward. But it was another good time. And Studio Trigger did 2 very different animations, so it was cool to see them go, okay, we did like the weird, ridiculous shit. Now we're just gonna be like, this is Star Wars. Enjoy. But the next one I feel like is streets ahead of all the others.
Hi-oh, streets ahead.
La Pinocho. This is made by Geno Studio. They made one of my favorite anime from Amazon Prime. Hard to say. It's Kokkoku. They made Kokkoku, which felt like they were trying to do a lot of cool, unique, original shit. And then this took everything that I've seen them do to a different level. I felt like this was something I wasn't anticipating, and I was blown away as I was watching it. Especially since I was like, oh, it's the bunny one. We'll fucking see how anime this shit get. No, this was, it had the most interesting world to me. It felt like they really established the cities, the markets, the empire, the different political aspects. It established so much. It also had like an ancient history as part of it. And it hardly had any time to do all this, but I feel like I was able to absorb it all and really understand who these characters are, their struggles, their drives. It was a story about 2 sisters. One of them was adopted and the other one was biological to this one man whose family has had a line of ancient Jedi that have been passing down a special lightsaber throughout generations. So there's an extra tension between them while also being like, we want to protect our people. The only way to protect them is by joining the Empire. No, the only way to protect them is by resisting the Empire. And it was such a typical Star Wars thing, but it had so much heart in so little time. Really cool designs. It added so much to the Star Wars universe as far as like weapon design and stuff goes, character design, armor, ships, worlds. It was awesome. I was so into this, and yeah, man, I don't know. This definitely felt like it was doing something unique and still a part of the Star Wars universe versus the Twins, which was doing something unique, still a part of the Star Wars universe, but it was fucking taking some liberties. La Pinocho also taking liberties, feeling a lot more grounded and a lot more stylized, but still like really inspired, passionate, and wanted to be something new that Star Wars fans could absolutely dive into. This feels like it could have a whole series made out of it. It would have been awesome if we got that. I would like that, but so good. It was beautiful.
Dude, I'm right there with you.
And the 3D, you couldn't see the 3D in this. It was so good.
No, really. The fact that you even mentioned it is the first that I really realized that it was even there.
Yeah, no, when I was watching it, I was like, that was 3D. Whoa, wait, how much of this? And I just started paying attention. I'm like, this is how it's done. You shouldn't be able to notice it. That's why I was so upset with Production IG, because I know that these 3D, like, I wasn't sure what their time constraints were, the budget, the animation, all that. But Geno Studio hasn't done a whole lot compared to Production IG. I was blown away. Just fucking phenomenal.
It was so well done, and it's hard to really break down like why it was so good, because there were so many aspects. Like, okay, the characters were well written, right? They didn't try to beat you over the head with why Bun was there in the first place. She just kind of was there. She is who she is, and they carried on with the story from there. They didn't try to explain her backstory.
Dude, they had a time jump, and the time jump fucking worked so well. We were there for like a second, and we went, okay, I see what this is. And then they do a time jump, and I'm like, oh, I'm loving what's going on.
And it hurts that the sister is doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
It hurts you so badly. And especially when it gets to the end of the episode, you're like, oh my God, like I'm in so much pain right now. Yeah. I would love to see them do more with that. And the whole idea that it was kind of how I felt when they came out with Rogue One, was like, it wasn't necessarily like, your typical Star Wars title.
Yeah.
But it was clearly within the world. They were clearly using the technology, and it was in the world.
Yeah.
I'm having so much trouble
it's okay.
trying to explain what it...
Dude, like Rogue One took some liberties. They were like, this motherfucker is blind, uses a bow staff, uses the Force, and La Pinocho was like, yeah, this motherfucker could use a bow staff, but instead she's going to use some like crazy nunchuck bow staff
and also she's
with lightning.
And also this girl's a bunny. So
yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. This was by far my favorite one. I just feel like every part of it was so inspired. And then finally, Akakiri. Made by Science SARU as well. And this one was done in a very different style, which was more similar to Science SARU's like human kind of form animation. Not as Western, much more what they were going for. And this is the drum one. It had a talking drum and some bongos right off the bat, kept them going throughout the whole thing, and they were really like going along with the pace of it. I loved that aspect of it. And then the whole time I was like, this is okay. It's just about a band of people that are kind of they're essentially going up against the Sith in their own way, because they have, I don't know, there's like royal ties and shit. This whole thing was kind of a bizarre story. And then we got to the end, got a cool ass little like, oh man, we have some like big tension, a little conversation kind of tension, a little bit of fate and destiny kind of tension. And the story ended in a way that I don't feel like Star Wars is very comfortable doing, where Jedis go to the dark side, not because, oh, I'm dark now, like fucking Anakin did. They instead go because they were very much forced to, because of their love for somebody else.
I mean, I honestly feel like this was the same reason why Anakin went to the dark side. Because I care about somebody else more than I care about myself. Okay. And I need somebody. You're promising me, this person is promising me that I can help save the person I care about. So I'll do whatever I can to save this person. That's the whole idea behind Anakin turning to the dark side to try to save Padme.
I guess the difference to me is that Anakin had time. He had some premeditated thought about what was going on. And this guy was just like, well, I don't have any choices. It's either I let them die, I fight, and I die too, or I join them, she comes back to life. Like, you have less than a minute to decide that. So this was much more of a like, oh shit, I have no choice.
I think that the Jedi at the end of the last episode, he's been foreseeing this for how many years?
Sure,
it started at the beginning of the episode that he's already been foreseeing. He's had
these, yeah.
So he knows that somebody he knows that somebody that he cares about is going to die. So, But he didn't realize until the end that he was the one to deal the killing blow.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the turning point for him, that he's like, whatever I can do to save this person. I don't care if it's turning to the dark side or not.
He didn't realize there would be a whoopsie daisy dark side aspect of it. It was just like a.
But neither did Anakin. You know, Anakin.
Yeah, I guess that's
if you're
fair.
talking about, you know, going back in the films, is he had these premonitions of Padme dying.
Mhm.
But the whole reason Padme ended up dying is because he turned to the dark side in the first place. So it's this self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm trying to save the ones that I love, and it's this battle between good and evil. And it's always the ones that lose themselves to the evil whose loved ones end up dying.
Do you feel like this character already lost himself to evil before accidentally killing somebody who he thought was evil, but wound up being somebody he deeply cared about? Or do you think that that was more of a mistake?
Well, the idea, I think, is that you lose yourself to passion. I don't think that there's necessarily an idea. I don't believe in the distinction between good and evil. I believe in losing yourself to a passion, right? Like, if you're talking about Anakin, he at the same time loves Padme and loves Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
They're two sides of the same coin, right? But he decides that Padme is more important than anything, whether it be the good of humanity or not. And so he decides that that's the route he's going to go, and he will destroy anybody that stands in his way, whether it be family or what have you. And I think that as a real person in real life, plenty of people are presented with that type of idea that, hey, well, would you destroy everything in your path for this one person? And it's like, well, I think most people that are typical humans go, oh, well, no, I wouldn't destroy humanity for this one person. But that's why it's a fantasy world, and that's why Anakin did what he did.
That's why Tsubaki did what he did, trying to take out all those fucking Sith, protect the people he loves. Fucked up. Sith too smart. Sith put dress on person. He done kill. Yeah, it's a classic Star Wars. But I did really like, though, that it was just like such a fast little twist on it, and it was like, that's it. It's fucking it, man. He fucked up. It wasn't like a long
that's the thing,
dramatic
right?
build to it. I loved how fast it was.
Yeah, it's not like you get years and years to figure out, what's the best course of action. The best part about these episodes, when it comes to a Sith versus Jedi perspective, is like, you need to choose now. And that's kind of what makes most of us as normal people make maybe less than smart decisions. Is, hey, we need to decide now that this is the best way that we're going to handle this, and whatever. So from an anime perspective, obviously it's like what works best, and the Sith obviously kind of give a more immediate satisfaction to things. So
yeah, well, that was the last one, and I think it was a good one to end on, because it was not if you went to La Pinocho, ended there, it'd be like, man, what a good note. Like, there's some hope. Who knows? She's trying hard. She's got to make her sister good again. Versus Akakiri, which was more of a, all right, yeah, Sith win again. Fuck you. And then it's over. Like, oh, tight. But yeah, that's it for Star Wars Visions. If you do want more Star Wars Visions, fortunately, there's some a little bit of extra stuff going on. October 12th, you can buy a Star Wars Visions Ronin novel, which builds on the story of the Duel. So if you do like that concept of a Sith going out, collecting these Kyber crystals from other Sith, taking down each Sith one day at a time. Hey man, there's gonna be a book. Crazy, right? Cool. Yeah, didn't expect that. I didn't, at least. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I can't wait for more. It has overwhelmingly good reviews. I don't think it's been greenlit for a second season yet, but everything is really good, and there has been a lot of talk about a second season coming, but nothing has been officially stated, signed, released. We'll see it soon. Hopefully. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, because this was so successful.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Is did Star Wars Visions make money? And I'm pretty sure it did. So a good chance that there's going to be more.
I would hope so. The only thing that we didn't talk about, which I totally forgot, was I watched it in Japanese with English subtitles. Disney Plus is a fucking garbage ass subtitle place.
Terrible.
They only have English closed captions subtitles, so you're just seeing what you would see for the English dialogue opposed to the Japanese dialogue. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but when it starts saying extra lines when nobody's talking, it's like, yeah, that's right. This is different. It also says wind blows, music plays, warriors, wah la la la, like different shit like that. I didn't watch it in English. I heard that the English is great, though. The only reason that I didn't want to watch it in English, of course, is because I wanted to see what the original creator's intent was. But fortunately with Disney, they've always been really good at hiring voice actors for anime projects. All of this Studio Ghibli stuff has been voiced over by people that Disney hired, and I think that they do such a good job with all that. While I can't say for certain, probably good. Probably good.
I mean, I also didn't watch it in English, but I saw the English voice actors, so to me, it seemed like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, nice, dude. I would have gone for Lucy Liu.
I was going to say also Lucy Liu is the original.
Wow. Okay, I only asked for one show off.
Well, that's why I gave you one.
You didn't want to say Alison Brie, really? Neil Patrick Harris, okay? You don't want to go for Simu Liu, who was just recently in
fucking Shang-Chi, baby.
He's our boy. But clearly,
he's our Shang-Chi boy.
They have so many good people in all this from different
things.
They really
do.
Fantastic. Just a good time. I'm really happy we got to watch this. And I'm glad that as a Star Wars fan, you liked it and didn't feel like, fuck this. This is all just a bunch of baloney.
A bunch of hoo-ha.
Yeah.
Well, it'd have to be like episode 8 or 9 for me to feel that way, so
yeah. Dude, it was a good time.
Yeah, there was no Mary Poppins bullshit for me to be upset at. So
Mary Poppins bullshit, what's that mean?
What are you talking about? Have you Oh, Chris.
Just in the context of this, what do you mean by Mary Poppins bullshit?
I mean, Leia floating from just outer space after her ship explodes to... I mean, really, talk to any Star Wars fan about Princess Leia's
I'm
Mary Poppins bullshit. You'll understand.
I am just asking the term Mary Poppins bullshit. I didn't understand what it meant. I still don't understand what it means. I did think that was stupid as fuck. Do you just mean stupid as fuck stuff?
Yeah, clearly, because Star Wars is not Mary Poppins.
I don't know, man. Mary Poppins is good. Mary Poppins did so many good things.
Yeah, so Mary Poppins was good.
That's why
it's too bad Star Wars tried to do what they did.
Hey, man, I see. Now, Mickey Mouse bullshit, I understand what that means. Now I know what Mary Poppins bullshit means. They are one in the same. I'm with you.
I'd take Mickey Mouse bullshit over Mary Poppins bullshit for sure.
So apparently I don't know what either of them mean because I thought they were the same. I don't know, man. It's all just bullshit. Thank you, Abe, for joining me on this ride through no bullshit. Just a bunch of fun.
Oh, my God. What are you talking about? No bullshit. So much bullshit. Non-stop bullshit, in fact.
This was all fun. The whole show was a blast.
Oh, I had fun, but it was all bullshit.
What are you talking about? So this was all Mary Poppins bullshit.
Oh, absolutely.
You said it was.
No, I do non-stop Mary Poppins bullshit.
Okay, all right. Whatever, man. Yeah, you want to plug your podcast again?
Sure. Brothers and Others podcast, a real play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. You can find it on where you find most podcasts. Just type in BAOP cast and you'll find us. I usually play a small person and it's pretty fun because I'm not a small person. So
hell yeah, dude. All right. Well, yeah, thank you guys for listening, hanging out with us, having a chill sesh, just talking about anime and nerd shit. It's been a blast. You guys can find us on Facebook. Look up the Instagram podcast. If you want to find us on Instagram, look up the Instagram podcast. If you want to send us a tweet at InstaRamenPod, because podcast didn't fit. You can email us at InstaRamenPodcast@gmail.com. Next week, we'll be back actually doing our live streams while recording. That's twitch.tv/Crispather. And of course, if you like our intro and outro song, absolutely check out my boy Tom Nasser. He's going by Not Mars on Spotify. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, Abe, for joining me. And Abe, don't forget.
Wipe your butt.
All right, thank you very much.
That was so much fun.